everyone, my name's Matt and I'm the head of developer relations here at Moesif. Today I'm going to give you a quick overview of the platform. Now, Moesif is a big platform that has lots of functionalities, so we're not going to dig into any of them super deeply. However, by the end of this video, you should understand a good chunk of what Moesif does and how it can help you in your business. Of course, within Moesif, a lot of our features are applicable to engineers, as well as product folks, marketers, salespeople. There's pretty much something for everyone within Moesif. The platform itself builds its foundations on top of analytics, but within all of that, you can also do a lot of workflow pieces such as automating stuff like governance rules, alerts, behavioral emails. The platform also supports metered billing as well for APIs and pretty much any event that you have within your platform. Now, with that being said, let's get started and first take a look at what dashboards can do. Now, dashboards are the central hub for many of our users. And these dashboards allow you to take a bunch of great charts and reports and push them all into one area. The convenience of this is the fact that you can create a dashboard for specific users, for specific teams, and all of them can be customized. Now, as you can see here, we have a bunch of pre-canned or default dashboards, which cover product, engineering, security, customer success, sales, and marketing. Now, when you create your Moesif instance, you will get these by default. And as part of that, we've actually put together some base charts and reports that can help each of these segments within your business. The first one that we look at here is product, and this is the one that we'll do a quick little demonstration of. We'll go through the rest of them as well, but not in as much depth. Essentially, each of these dashboards is made up of a tile, and these tiles are reports and charts that we created in Moesif. You can see stuff like a user funnel that we've created here. You can see that we have a bar chart which shows 400 errors by endpoint. We can see trending API transactions in a time series chart. If we scroll over a little bit, we can see some stuff such as, this is a live event log of newest 400 errors that are occurring on specific APIs. And we can look at a bunch of other important metrics as well. Now, each of these can be clicked on. They can be tweaked. So we can see here that this is our defined user funnel. So we can see the chart output here, step 1, step 2, step 3. And this would be something along the lines of, created an account, logged in for the first time, and let's say you're an e-commerce platform, this may be checked out successfully. We can take all of these charts that we create in Moesif and we'll go over each of these. But for right now, really the key part to get out of the dashboards is the fact that as you make charts, you probably want to group them together for specific teams or for specific users. You can do that within Moesif. And it kind of gives you a one-stop shop for all of these different things that are pertinent to each of these business units. And we have the same thing, for engineering, security, customer success, sales, marketing, and we can also create a new dashboard if we wanted to as well. So we create a new dashboard and then start adding tiles to it. We can also edit and change these default dashboards as well, so they're a great place to start. Now, as part of this, we want to maybe know how to create these charts. If we click on the new button here, you can see everything that's pretty much available within the Moesif platform. So we can create metrics reports, so live event log, time series, segmentation, geo heatmap, and smart diff. Because of how Moesif actually tracks API calls and events, we can also do stuff that allows us to group user data and company data as well. So we can do a user lookup or a company lookup, which is essentially a CRM style, you can search for a specific user or users with specific traits. It'll bring them up and allow you to explore those profiles. We can also look at funnels. So similar to the one that I just showed in the product dashboard, we can show a user funnel or a company funnel of how they are onboarding or how they are using the product and what the conversion rates are between each of those steps. We can also look at retention. Part of the strategy for many businesses to make sure that once you've acquired a customer or a user, which you can track through the user funnels, you also want to make sure that you're retaining those customers. So we can also build retention reports as well. And lastly here under users and companies, we can also see what the user composition is. So we're able to create different segments and see, for instance, as you can see here, you could look at what campaigns most of our customers are coming from. So marketing campaigns. We might look at what behaviors certain customers or users have and group them together so we can see what the spread is or the composition of our user base looks like. We also have cohorts, which allow us to essentially define parameters in which users should be grouped together. And that's going to drive a lot of these alerts and workflows. The cohorts themselves allow us to say, for instance, we could create a criteria where we might say we want to group all of the users who have got a 500 error in the last 7 days. And it would allow us to have this predefined group that we could then click on and look at, okay, here's our users that we have within this cohort. Or you could also use that cohort to do something like, if a user experiences more than 400 errors in the last 24 hours, we're going to send them a behavioral email. So there's lots of functionality that we can derive off of this here. Now, these ones here, if you think about the platform itself, this here really revolves around discovery and exploring what your platform is, how people are using the platform, popular features, anything that you want to dive into from an analytics perspective, you're going to be able to do there. Now, what sets the platform apart is the fact that we can go beyond just looking at the analytics and actually start actioning those. And that's where we have this stuff at the bottom here. So we have alert rules, which allow you to set a specific criteria. And for instance, when we talked about 400 errors in the last 24 hours, maybe we want to let our customer success team know that a user is having some issues. We can do that. We can automatically send it to Slack. We can send it via email. We can send an SMS, PagerDuty. We can do all of this type of stuff. So we can actually use this to actively monitor what is going on within our platform and let the necessary teams know. You may also use it where every time that a new customer signs up, you want to alert the customer success team. Or if a user signs up and maybe makes more than 100 API calls within the first hour, you know that that customer is actually deriving value from the platform, and you probably want them to be on the customer success radar. You can do that. Then we have behavioral emails, which allow us to use an automated workflow to send an email to a user when they hit a specific criteria. So this works really, really well if, for instance, for onboarding, if a user signs up, you may want to send them an email, a welcome email. You may also, if a user uses a specific feature, like let's say you have two related features that you see a lot. When users use feature X, they usually also get value out of feature Y. What you could say is, if the user is using feature X, then send an email introducing feature Y to them. And this can allow you to expand the value for that user. It could also help you with onboarding stuff. So if a user is a new user and hasn't sent any requests to your API or to your service within the first 24 hours, maybe you want to send them an email to let them know how to get started. So lots of different possibilities there. This really helps you to drive a lot of the product-led growth automation that a lot of companies are looking for. Then we have governance rules here, which allow you to enforce business governance. So obviously different from gateway API gateway governance. This allows you to do stuff like if you use our monetization feature and let's say that their Stripe or Recurly balance is overdue, we can actually create a governance rule which will still accept that API request, but then in the response, it's actually going to block it and say, hey, you have a payment that's required in order to continue to use this API. So you can do stuff like that. You can also use this from a security perspective too. So if you have a specific type of malicious activity that you know that you can kind of parameterize, you could actually set up a governance rule to say, if a user does this, this, and this, that likely is malicious. Let's block their usage. And then at the same time, you could also let your customer success team know. And you could send out a behavioral email to say, hey, your usage has been blocked because of X. Please reach out to our customer success team in order to get your access back again. You could automate all of that. And lastly, we have billing meters. And this allows you to actually monetize your APIs. This here is going to allow you to set up a specific criteria. Maybe you have a specific API endpoint or API response, or the flexibility is pretty much endless. You can use that and set up a billing meter, which will then send usage units over to Recurly, Stripe, or Chargebee, and is going to allow you to monetize those APIs in a matter of minutes. So let's actually go forward and explore some of this a bit more. The first thing that I want us to look at here is the setting up some of these metrics. So I'm going to click on Live Event Log. And here, maybe I want to pull back. So again, this is very similar to what you would see with, think of it more like a dynamic log, where instead of having these very simple text logs that you see in a lot of API interfaces, now we have this nice explorable interface where we can dig into each call. We can see what the requests look like. We can see what the response looked like. So we can see all this here. It allows you to have a way to interact with these calls, or just to see a more colorful live event log as the events actually flow in. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up one where anyone who's called /login endpoint and has received something that's not a 200 OK response. So to do that, and this is going to drive a lot of functionality. This filters functionality drives a lot of different things within the platform. So let's do here. You'll see that I'll do request, and I have a bunch of available criteria that I can go with. We also can dig into body and header fields as well. So we could say if a body field available quantity is greater than say 5. What Moesif actually does is it actually parses the request body, response headers, request headers, and allows you to actually filter based on that. So we can do a lot of these really, really deep queries and then save them if we wanted to as well and put them on a dashboard. But let's scrap this and actually come back over to request, and we'll do URI route. Moesif automatically parses all of the available URI routes based on the API calls that have come in. So we'll say is, I'm going to do /login. So we can see that we have 2,239 calls in this data set between 0831 and 1130. So we see everything here is /login. You can see that each of these calls is associated to a user and associated to a company. So users can belong to companies, and that's how you can group all of the usage together. What we'll do here is we only want to see essentially the error calls. So we can do where response status code is not equal to 200. And now we can see here, we can see some 502s. We could actually add in a couple more here. So we'll get rid of 204s. We'll get rid of 201s. And now we can see a little bit more here. So we can see we got some 502s. We can see that we've got some 400s, some 401s. This allows us to really quickly explore what's going on within our APIs. And we can continue to nest this almost infinitely based on all of these different criterion that we could pick. So maybe we'll do response, headers, where content type is, I guess all of ours is application JSON. But as you can see, Moesif actually parses out the different values within this. So if we had another content type that was available within these requests, it would also populate here. Now, moving on from that, so we've shown how you can use this. This is live event log. The next thing that we usually go over is time series. So you can either select it from here, or you can come to the new button and select it from here as well. Everything is available in multiple places. Brings you to the same page, but it is available just to make it easier for navigation. So the cool part is that if you've created a criteria like we did before, when you select your other chart, it'll actually transfer that over. So what I can see here is over a period of time, so we can see that between 0831 to 1130, I can see that what the trend is over each day in terms of essentially errors that are occurring within the endpoints. What we can do is we can see each day how things are trending, and this is on a daily basis. So you can see each day, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. What we could also look at is what that looks like from a weekly perspective. It gives you a little bit of a smoother curve. So we can see that our error occurrences are actually continually going up and spiking quite a bit. And the cool part about Moesif is that if you have an incomplete period, so the reporting for this week hasn't fully come in yet, you'll actually see a dotted line, which will show you how it's trending so far. So obviously, as more stuff comes in, it will increase. And then eventually, once this period has elapsed, this will become a solid line, and then a new dotted line will actually start. So you can see how things are trending up until the current point in time. So what we could actually do here is group these by response code. So to do that, come to our group by, and we can do response status code, and we'll just do the top 20. We could do top 5, but let's do top 20. And you'll see that our chart has actually changed. So we can see 400s, 401s, 402s, 409s, 429s, 500s, and 502s. And as we go over top of each of these, we can actually see that the highest occurrences are happening for 400 errors. And we can also click on these to get rid of them. So we can see in more clarity how these 400 errors are trending. If we uncheck them, we can then see that 401s are also increasing. So this allows us to tweak how this data is shown so that we're able to see various specific things about the data versus before, when we get rid of this, where we just see an overall trend line. So you can dig in more and more, and this can be done again almost to an infinite amount of group by and segmentations. Then let's hop over into segmentation here, and what you'll see here is we only have /login, so let's get rid of this. And now we can see across all of our endpoints. So I will get rid of this filter as well, actually. So this is all events that are flowing into our system. We're actually grouping them by URI route. So the top 20 URI routes. So we can actually see which ones are most popular. The most popular one that we can see here is widgets/category/ID, which is an endpoint that's created in the demo data we have here. And we can see that there's 11,155 events that have come through in this time frame, so 08/31 to 11/30. And then we can see how things are trending along these other endpoints, so /doc/price. So what we're going to do here now is we will actually group each of these by, let's just say, where their initial UTM source was. So this is something really popular for marketers. We want to see who's using the product and where they came from. So what we can do for that is come to user, campaign, and then we'll pick initial UTM source. We can start to see here what platforms are bringing in our most active users. So most people that use our widgets category ID obviously are coming direct to the platform. However, Facebook is actually bringing a fair amount of users to the platform. And we can actually see that across here. Why is this type of stuff important? Well, from a marketing and sales and just general operations perspective, this is good stuff to know, because if you have a non-performant or a less performant medium where you're spending a lot of marketing or sales effort, maybe you would want to focus on one that's working a little bit better for you. So for instance, we can see here that drip campaigns are bringing in 1,100 calls for this specific endpoint. So if we want this endpoint to grow, maybe we want to spend a little bit more on the Facebook side of things, or maybe find a way to revise our drip campaign to see if we can start to get more engagement from it. Lots of different ways to interpret the data and lots of different ways to display it. So this is a really powerful tool in terms of even sales and marketing to figure out how we can refine that stuff. So it's not just for engineers. Now there's two other ones that we won't go over, but there's also Geo Heatmap and Smart Diff, which Geo Heatmap allows us to see where our API calls are coming from, which can be useful to see exactly where this traffic is, right? So maybe we find that a lot of our servers are over here in the US, but we're seeing that we have a lot of European traffic coming in. Maybe it makes sense to stand up a data center over here as well to maybe decrease latency for these customers. So lots of different things that we can do within the platform to see how people are using it, who's using it, and so on and so forth. Now, anytime that you have created something that you like or you think might be useful, what you can do is, if we were to set this up again, do /login is /login. If we wanted to display this somewhere, so this is the amount of people that are coming to the /login endpoint, we could actually save this to a dashboard. So, we might name it logins over time, and we could save it to our product dashboard or our customer success dashboard if we wanted to. So we could do a save here. I won't because we're on a demo account, but we could do that. Or we could actually create a new dashboard if we wanted to as well. Maybe we would do a logins dashboard or an onboarding dashboard, and we could save it to that dashboard as well. On top of saving it internally to Moesif, what we can also do is if we find a chart that we like, that we think maybe we have a external customer portal, and we want to show how that customer's usage is trending over time. Instead of building it ourselves, we can actually use an embedded template. So for that, let's just say we wanted to show all of the traffic for a specific user. So I'll come here and we'll do user ID is, we'll pick 27. So this is user 27 here. If we think, wow, this would be really, really good to actually show within this user's dashboard, we could actually use an embedded template. So we could click embed right here. And this would allow us to create a embedded template essentially, or take this chart outside of Moesif and put it into something that's customer facing. So we can do that via a static embed. We can do that through an embedded template, which allows us to do customer specific. So static embed is like almost a public view of this. So maybe we want to show on our public website or on Tableau or Power BI exactly what is going on. We can take this dashboard and actually embed it there. So, and very, very easily, this is a matter of minutes. If we had something like an internal portal, like a customer portal that we wanted to show and only show data for that customer, we could use an embedded template. And then if we wanted to do something custom, like pull data and then display it somehow in some fashion that's more customized, we could also access that data via API as well. So pull back a JSON payload, which then you can use to parse through and display however you'd like. And to create one of these is as simple as just clicking on one, name the template. You can create your sandbox policy. So we can say, we want the user ID to be dynamic. So only show for that specific user that's logging in. So we're not going to hard code user 27. We want the user that's accessing the portal to only pull their details. We can do that. And then, we can create an embed code. And once you've named it and selected, created your sandbox policy, you can do get embed code. And then we can actually use this little tutorial here to take and embed this into our application. So it's super, super simple. Generally, copy and paste the iframe and away you go. So very simple to implement. And that's going to allow you to share these charts externally. And you can see that we've got a couple that we've already embedded here. Now, from there, let's take a quick look at users and companies. So if I click on users, this is the user lookup that you can also access through here. User lookup, again, is like a CRM style lookup where we can look for users based on a specific trait that those users have. So, users where company domain is, let's just say bestbuy.com. So these folks here have a email or company domain that's bestbuy.com. And you can also, instead of looking at it through certain customer or user traits, you can also look at it to say users that experienced a, let's just say a 500 error. So where response status code is 500. So these here are all the users that experienced at least one 500 response from one of the APIs in our suite of APIs between this time period here, which is 0831 to 1130. Now, what we could do is change this. We could say that they've experienced at least 5. You can see that it changed a little bit there. Let's say 10. See if we can get our list a little smaller. Let's do 25. So you can see these folks have experienced 25, at least 25, 500 internal server errors within the last 0831 to 1130, so last few months. Great way for customer success team to see what's going on. Engineering team may also be interested in this. We could also do something like users where, get rid of this, users where their campaign initial UTM source is, we want to know maybe people that came in through LinkedIn. So these are all the people who actually found our company and started using our APIs based on something that they found on LinkedIn. Again, for marketing and sales, this might be really powerful as well. So that's the lookup. Again, allows you to very, very easily sort through users, and then you can click on each of these users as well and dig into them a little bit more if you'd like to. So you can see individual charts that are automatically created. So these are user profile charts that allow you to see API growth rate over time specifically for this user. So it's not across all users, it's just for this user. We can see their title, we can see their seniority, we can see how they're accessing our API. So they're using the Golang SDK. We can see when they created their account, the first time that we actually saw them log in, the last time they logged in, so last time seen, lots of different details that we can explore. Great for customer success, for sales, all of these folks that are generally tend to be less technical. So our next thing that we'll do is we'll take a quick look at user funnels. So we did explore this very briefly when we looked at the product dashboard, but what we'll do here is we will create a user funnel very, very quickly. Which will show users that log in, make a single purchase or checkout, and then make a subsequent 3 purchases after that. So we can see how long it takes for people to log in, make their first purchase, and then we obviously want to have repeat customers. So how long does it take for them to become what we will consider after 4 purchases they are a actual repeat customer? We want to know how long that takes, and why that's important. And let me just set this up here as we're going. Why that's important is because, as we make tweaks to our onboarding or as we make tweaks to our marketing campaigns, our sales strategies, all these types of things, it's great to be able to see from a point in time, okay, when we first did that marketing campaign, here's the results that we got. And after the marketing campaign or after we tweaked our onboarding, look at the increase or the decrease in how customers are using the product. So I'm going to set up the first part as /login. So they've logged in at least one time. Step 2 will be when they call the URL route is /purchase. And I only want to count purchases where the response was 200, meaning that the purchase was successful. So we'll do response status code is 200. Now what we can see here is, just from these 2 steps, here's our login, so 100%. Then only 25.67% of folks that log in are actually making a purchase. And to make that first purchase, it's taking on average 26 days and 14 hours. And we can see that here. So step 1, we have 335 people that have logged in. By step 2, we only have 86 that have actually made a purchase, 25.67%. And we can see the overall time to convert is 26 days. That's a long time. Now, what we might do is we might start actually putting in a discount code campaign. And what we could then do is say, here's the 2 weeks before the discount code campaign, and here's the 2 weeks after. Is the discount code making a impact. And we might be able to see that it goes from 25.67 up to 32%. And then we know, okay, we're in the right direction. We need to continue to double down on these discount codes. Or maybe you're investing more time and effort into a specific platform that's bringing in people. Maybe you find that people that come from LinkedIn convert better than people that are coming from Facebook. You could do two things with that. You could ask, why are they converting better? And then explore that through the platform. Or you could also take that as a sign to, hey, if LinkedIn's working for us, let's double down on that and see if we can increase the amount of people that come into the funnel. And again, if we wanted to save this, we could. So we could actually save this to a specific dashboard, purchase funnel, and then save it to the product dashboard if you wanted to. Save. You could also, if you only wanted to have this visible for you on the dashboard, you could also put it as private. And then when you log in, you'll be the only one that sees this. Lots of ways to actually customize the platform to make sure it works best for you. So X out of that. Then we'll look at retention here. We won't really touch on composition, but let's touch on retention here just so we can see roughly what it looks like. Maybe what we want to do is we want to see how many people are logging in, or let's just say people that are, their first event is a first purchase, and the second, their returning event is a second purchase. So how often are people coming back to make a purchase or are being considered a retained customer? So we'll look at request, URI route is /purchase. And then if we don't supply a returning event, what it does is it'll take any type of interaction with the platform by a user will be considered a return event. But we want to be really specific on this. So we'll do request and we'll do URI route is /purchases. And let's see what this looks like. So this is daily. We want to look at let's just say weekly retention. We can actually see that our retention rate's not too bad. So, in week 1, 41% of users are making a second purchase. Week 2, 48%. Week 3, so we actually have a relatively healthy retention curve here. It's staying pretty straight. We don't want to see a big dive. We are seeing a big dive here on week 13. But with that being said, as we look at the data set further, we may find that that trend kind of evens out. Now, if we wanted to look at it in a monthly view, we can see here that month 0, obviously 100% retention because these folks are making their initial purchase. By month 2, 55% of users are still making a second purchase or at least one purchase. Month 2, it's even higher, so 74% are returning back to the platform. And then by month 3, we have 40%. Again, the same way with user funnels, what we could do here is say, all right, we need to get month 3 and beyond bumped up. So maybe by month 2, maybe in month 2, if they haven't made a purchase, maybe what we do is we send them a discount code, or maybe we do some type of engagement activity that brings them back to the platform. And if we have a subscription service, or if we have some type of service which requires a purchase, we can find ways to get users over the finish line to make sure that they are a retained customer. So these tools, super, super important for business, sales, even engineering, even more technical folks can get value from this and come together and figure out how do we improve the business based on these metrics. Now we can do the exact same thing with companies as well. We can look at, company retention, company funnels, all these types of things. One last thing that we'll do here is let's just add a group by, and let's group this retention by the UTM source. So initial UTM source. We can see here, if we look at it on let's do a weekly basis, we can see here that there's 100% retention for people that are coming from Twitter. So great, we need to get more people in through Twitter. But when we look at, Facebook and LinkedIn here, we can see that it dives down to 0%. So by week 12, week 11, week 12, users that are coming in through Facebook or LinkedIn are not using the platform anymore. So we can tailor our strategy from a sales and from a marketing perspective to actually go, all right, if these users have come in through Facebook or through LinkedIn or through a newsletter, which we can see here also drops off pretty quickly, and it's been, 10 weeks or 11 weeks since they made their first login, let's take some sort of action to try and bring them back to the platform. And the great part is that because of how Moesif works, we can create a time box, maybe the 3 months before versus 3 months after, and actually compare what the results are so that we can see if we're actually improving it. That is how the dashboards, embedded templates, a lot of the metrics and chart stuff work, as well as the users and companies stuff. Now let's start to dig into these bottom few here. We're going to dig into alert rules, billing meters, governance rules, and behavioral emails. So with alerts, if we come over here, we can either click alerts, or what we can do is we can do new alert rule. We can see that here we have a bunch of alerts already set up. So there's alerts that go to this email, which is alerts@acmeinc.com. They're going to get a notification when the response status code of an API call is not 200, 201, or 204. And if there's more than 100 essentially errors within the last day, then our alerts at Acme Inc. is going to be notified. And then you'll know that that customer or that company is actually having issues with the API. We also have some reports created here as well. So we have some which are failure, individual failure things, but then we also have, reports where large change in unique users. So we also have enterprise plans with less than 10 API calls per week. Something like this is important because from a customer success perspective, if you have an enterprise plan that's starting to see a decrease in activity, you may want to figure out why that's the case to make sure that they don't churn. So we want to make sure that they don't churn out. And you can see we've got some security ones here as well. So if we wanted to create a new alert, it's easy to do. Maybe we want to get an alert whenever a user has tried to log in 5 times and received more than 5 401 errors in the last 24 hours. So what we can do is this. We'll do request URI route is login/login, and where the response status code is not equal to 200. Now, we don't have any of these that have occurred in the last bit, or else if we did see the events, if we did have events that fit this criteria, we would see them here. But we want this to, let's say within the last day. So we have, and you can see that we're building our alert rule over here. So for events where request route is login and the response status code is not equal to 200, alert when the event count is greater than 5 over the last 24 hours. And we can put this as login issues alert. Now with Moesif, what you can do is you can do a static alert. So here we're saying if it's greater than 5 in the last 24 hours, we could change this obviously to 50, and you see it reflected up here. Greater than, less than, you can do all of these types of things. However, you can also do dynamic alerts too. This allows you to do more of a trend type of detection. So we actually will detect if there's an anomaly. Abrupt spike sensitivity, if something is very quickly spiking, we can send an alert for that. Unusual change sensitivity, so if API usage is going up or down, we can alert on that. And if things are trending higher, we can also alert on that. Now, these sensitivities are based on a scale here. So if you want to reduce sensitivity, you bring it over here to the left, which means even a small spike is going to set off the alert. Or if you want it to be only big spikes that cause this alert to go off, then you would keep it up here. And then, as time goes, you might find that you might want to tweak this a bit. Now, you can do the direction of the anomaly, so both, meaning increase or decrease, or just increases or just decreases. And then, once you select a channel, so maybe we want this to be alerts at Acme Inc., we could actually create this alert right now. We'll go back to static alert because this is what we want for this one. Static alert where the threshold is greater than 5 in the last 24 hours. And then we can click create, and then this alert would actually be active, and our alerts at Acme Inc. channel would start getting alerts whenever this specific criteria is hit. Now, we also support, on top of email, which you see we're using here, we also support SMS, Slack, PagerDuty, and if you have some type of custom webhook that you want us to send it to, we can do that as well. So there's a lot of flexibility here in terms of where these alerts go. You can also set a notification throttle here, a maximum of 30 notifications per 1 hour. So, if you know that your team is going to be getting on things right away as soon as these alerts come through, it's fine. You may not want, the alarm going off every 5 minutes. So you can actually set a throttle here. So you might do, a maximum of 5 alerts per hour. So once it hits 5, it's then going to be throttled. That is how we would create an alert. That's to send internal notifications. What we can look at is how would we send an email to users. So let's just say we've got a couple here. So payment required. If they've exceeded their plan's limits or they have an overdue invoice, we could send an email. We may do things like a rate limit warning. So if they've exceeded if they have a monetized plan, let's just say, or a certain amount of quota for the month, you may actually also send them an email saying, hey, you're getting close, or you've exceeded your monthly plan. This can help especially if you charge for overages. So you want to let the customer know that they've hit that specific threshold. You could do that with a behavioral email. Now, if we wanted to create one, we could either, we have some templates here for rate limit warnings, onboarding guidance, API abuse warnings, but let's start from blank. And you can see that it's quite easy to set up. We could call this test email. As I mentioned before, you can create these cohorts where if a user fits a specific criteria, you can then use that to drive these emails. So we can see all of the cohorts that were set up before, or we could create a new one. If we have, new users who've never made an API call, so it means they signed up, but they never made an API call yet, what we could do is we could say, we could send them a welcome email. And customer success at acmeinc.com. Again, we have to set up all of the email server stuff in order to get this to work. And it works, one of the most popular ones that we see is SendGrid, or these other SMTP providers that you can use. AWS, for instance, Amazon has an email provider as well. You can use any of these. So if they provide an SMTP service, you can use it with Moesif. And we can then create a nice little email here, so we can add in some custom text if you wanted to. So we'll add a row, add content. Maybe we want to have some text in here. We can edit this text. Hey, welcome to the platform. CS at Acme Inc. Now, the cool part is that if you had some really nice HTML emails that you've wanted to create, you can also do that too. So we can actually put in HTML here so we can get these nicely formatted and nicely styled emails as well. So depending on how you want to do things, there's lots of flexibility here on how you want to implement these emails. You can make them look pretty, you can make them look really simple like I just did here. Whatever works best for you is the way that you can do it. Once we do that, we plug in our email server, we click create, it's active, and users are then going to be getting these automated emails when they belong to this specific criteria or the specific cohort. Lots of different ways you can do it. Now you can also do a recurring workflow as well. So if a user is, let's say, doing greater than whatever their daily quota is per day, you can actually do a recurring workflow. So every single day, if they exceed their quota, it's going to let them know. Or you can do it so that it only shows up once, so a non-recurring workflow. And that, covers off the basics of behavioral emails. We'll tackle governance rules, and then the last thing I want to go over is just billing meters, because I know that's important to a lot of our users as well. So governance rules here is where, we won't go into really deep into creating these because they are really simple. Let's go into an existing one. So we'll click on this enterprise only paywall. What we can do is we can actually make it so that certain API endpoints are not available to non-enterprise customers. So this here is a cohort that was created, so non-enterprise customers. And that cohort, when someone belongs to this cohort and they try to /export data or /Salesforce extension, which is two things that we've decided, as a demo business that we don't want non-enterprise customers to have access to, we can actually intercept those calls. We can override the response, which is 402 payment required. And then we can also override the response body, which you can see here says paywall. And then the message is, this is an enterprise feature, but you are on body.plan. So we can actually inject some stuff dynamically in here as well. So since they're a non-enterprise user, we don't want them to have access to this. And this is how we can do more of like business governance. What you'll also see here is stuff like maybe we don't want anyone with overdue invoices to be able to access. And this is how you would use these types of governance rules. So you can see other here like block users who exceeded rate limits. Again, you still might want to do this at the gateway level, but this also allows you to do it from a business level as well. Now, lastly, let's take a look here at billing meters. So we have a couple that have already been created. If I come into monthly tracked users, you can see that when you create a billing meter, it does stay locked. So you can't edit it, and that is for auditing purposes. So we want to make sure that we keep things locked in once you set up the billing meter. However, what you'll see here is that we've actually pulled in, this is pre-populated from the billing provider. So you can select the billing provider, Stripe or Curly Chargebee. Then it will show you the available products that you can associate these specific events or these specific meters with. And then you can also select the price or that add-on if you're using Recurly. Then you'll set up your filter, and here you can see that we want to charge on /login and where they have a user action. And then the metric we want to bill on is where the user ID is distinct. So once we don't, again, with the demo account, we don't have any of this data here right now. However, what would happen is every single time that a new user logs into the system, it's going to add them as a user to be charged. And it's going to charge at $7 USD per monthly tracked user. So if we have 7 unique users that come in, it's going to tally those up. It will send them over to Stripe, and then Stripe will actually handle the billing for that. So you don't need to worry about handling it on your side. You don't need to worry about integrating with Stripe from your application directly. You can actually use Moesif because we already have the analytics there. We can tally this stuff up, put it in the right format, and then ship it off to Stripe. Now, if we were to create a new one, we can click New Billing Meter. What we can do here, we'll get rid of this criteria, and we'll call this Test Billing Meter. We can see that we have Recurly and Stripe. Maybe we want to do, and these are coming from Stripe, so it goes out, calls the Stripe API, grabs all of the applicable products, and then eventually it pulls the prices down for them too, so that we can make sure that the usage gets linked up correctly. We'll do API Transaction Starter, and this is the price that we have available is $1.50 USD per 1,000 requests. And if we only have a specific, maybe we have a specific endpoint that we want to charge for. So we'll do /request /URI route is, maybe we want to charge for everything except for login. So we don't want to charge for login, but everything else. So we'll do is not /login. And we'll do also where it's just /. So the root. Now, every other call that happens within the platform is going to be charged for. So we'll do response. We only want to bring back the ones that are 200. So we'll do 200 OK. And now if we were to, we'll do, instead of custom metric, we'll do event count. And from here, now what will happen is if we were to save this, if we were to create it, what would happen is every single request that comes through that is not slash or slash login and is returning back a status code of 200, so a successful call, that's going to be counted towards that user and that company's overall tally or calculated usage. Then Moesif will actually send that over to Stripe and put those units of usage for that specific subscription or user based on the price that's supposed to be for there. So this is obviously a very simple example, and you can go much more deep than this, but this does give a good idea of how simple it is to set up billing meters on Moesif. So if we were to create this right now, we would be making money in the matter of a couple of minutes and be able to bill for it. So fantastic and easy way to be able to scale out API monetization. And the cool part is even if you're not doing API monetization, we can also bill on front-end events too. So Moesif allows you to track front-end events. So with that, that's going to give us a nice overview of exactly what the platform can do. From an integration perspective, just to give everyone an idea of how it works, you can see that we have lots of different server integrations. So these are SDKs that you can plug directly into your code, which is going to allow you to send events over to Moesif. And then we also have gateway plugins as well, including Kong, Nginx, Tyke, Envoy, so on and so forth. And these are usually quite easy. You might have a few commands to run, probably a few slight config changes, and probably a gateway restart, and then you're going to be off to the races and able to start logging events in Moesif, start going through your analytics, and you'll also be able to start monetizing your APIs as well. So with that, thank you so much for joining me for this platform overview. If you have any questions, feel free to go to our website where you can find our contact page and reach out to our customer success and sales teams so we can get you more information.